The little girl's eyes found his across the crowded mall, and in that moment, Jake Collins knew his life would never be the same. What he couldn't possibly know was that taking her small, trembling hand would lead him straight into the path of the most powerful woman in the country, and unearth a secret that had been buried for 8 long years. If you think this is just another heartwarming reunion story, I promise you'll need tissues for what happens next. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe now, because the twist coming in this true story left millions speechless. Jake Collins wiped down the last table at Brewster's Cafe, his shoulders aching from another 12-hour shift. At 34, his life had settled into a predictable rhythm: work, home to his 7-year-old daughter Lily, sleep, repeat. The cafe job wasn't glamorous, but it offered flexible hours that allowed him to be there when Lily got home from school, a priority since his wife Marie had died from cancer 3 years ago. "You heading out, Jake?" his manager called from behind the counter. "Yeah, just need to grab a few things at the mall for Lily's science project before I pick her up from my sister's," Jake replied, untying his apron. The Westfield Mall was crowded for a Thursday afternoon. Jake moved quickly through the throngs of shoppers, mentally calculating how much time he had before he needed to collect Lily. That's when he noticed the small figure standing alone near the fountain, tears streaming down her face. She couldn't have been more than 6 years old. Dark curls framed a heart-shaped face, her blue dress rumpled and slightly damp at the hem. Jake glanced around, expecting to see a frantic parent searching nearby, but no one seemed to be looking for her. He approached carefully, kneeling down to her level. "Hi there. Are you lost?" The girl nodded, her bottom lip trembling. "I can't find my nanny." "What's your name?" Jake asked gently. "Sophia," she whispered. "Well, Sophia, I'm Jake. Would you like me to help you find your nanny or your parents?" She nodded again, a tear sliding down her cheek. Jake offered his hand, and after a moment's hesitation, she took it. Her small fingers curled trustingly around his, and something shifted in his chest, a protective instinct he'd only ever felt with Lily. What Jake didn't realize as he led Sophia toward the mall security office was that security cameras were capturing their every move, footage that would soon be scrutinized by a team of private investigators and broadcast across every major news network in the country. At the security office, the guard took down Sophia's information. She knew her full name, Sophia Grace Montgomery, but couldn't remember her phone number or address. She explained that her nanny, Claudia, had been shopping with her when Sophia had stopped to look at a toy display. When she turned around, Claudia was gone. "Do you know your mom or dad's phone number?" the guard asked. Sophia shook her head. "Mommy is very busy. She's away on her big airplane." Jake stayed with Sophia while security made announcements over the mall intercom. An hour passed with no response. The guard mentioned calling Child Protective Services, and Jake saw fear flash in Sophia's eyes. "I can stay with her a bit longer," Jake offered. "My daughter's with my sister anyway. Maybe we could get her something to eat while we wait?" The guard looked relieved. After taking Jake's information and making a copy of his ID, he agreed to call Jake's cell if anyone came looking for Sophia. At the food court, Sophia picked at a plate of chicken nuggets while Jake called his sister to explain the situation. "You always were a sucker for strays," his sister teased. "Don't worry about Lily. She can stay here tonight if needed." As the mall prepared to close, still no one had come for Sophia. The security guard approached their table with a concerned expression. "CPS is backed up tonight. They won't have a placement until morning." Jake looked at Sophia's exhausted face and made a decision that would alter the course of his life forever. "I can take her for the night. I've already been background checked for my daughter's school volunteering." After a series of calls and paperwork, Jake was given temporary emergency custody until morning. As he drove home with Sophia asleep in Lily's booster seat, he had no idea that across the country, a private jet was being urgently fueled for takeoff. The next morning, Jake made pancakes for both girls, who had bonded instantly. Lily was thrilled to have someone to show her toys to, and Sophia seemed to bloom in the warm, chaotic environment of their small apartment. "My house doesn't have drawings on the refrigerator," Sophia observed, studying Lily's artwork with fascination. "Well, you're welcome to add some," Jake offered, sliding another pancake onto her plate. The doorbell rang just as they were finishing breakfast. Jake opened the door to find a police officer and a woman in a crisp suit who introduced herself as from Child Protective Services. "We've located Sophia Montgomery's family," the CPS worker explained. "Her mother is on her way." Jake felt an unexpected pang of loss but nodded. "Of course. She's just finishing breakfast." "There's something else," the officer added, his expression serious. "The nanny has been arrested. She abandoned Sophia deliberately." Before Jake could process this information, a sleek black SUV pulled up outside his apartment building. Two men in dark suits emerged first, scanning the area before opening the rear door. The woman who stepped out made Jake freeze in recognition. Everyone in America would recognize Alexandra Montgomery, tech CEO, philanthropist, and one of the richest women in the world. Her face regularly graced magazine covers and news programs, her company's innovations changing the technological landscape. And apparently, she was Sophia's mother. Alexandra Montgomery moved with purpose toward his door, her expression unreadable behind large sunglasses. When she removed them, Jake was struck by her eyes, the exact same shade of deep blue as Sophia's. "Where is my daughter?" she asked, her voice controlled but tight with emotion. "She's inside," Jake replied, stepping back to let her enter. "She's safe. She's been very brave." Alexandra's composure cracked slightly at his words. She moved past him into the apartment, stopping when she saw Sophia at the kitchen table with Lily. "Mommy!" Sophia cried, jumping down and running to her mother. Alexandra knelt, gathering her daughter into a fierce embrace. For a moment, the billionaire CEO was just a terrified mother reunited with her child. Jake felt like an intruder witnessing their private reunion. When Alexandra finally stood, still holding Sophia's hand, she turned to Jake with an intensity that made him nervous. "Thank you for taking care of her," she said formally. "My team will ensure you're compensated for your trouble." "It wasn't any trouble," Jake replied honestly. "She's a wonderful little girl." Something flickered across Alexandra's face, surprise, perhaps, or assessment. She glanced around the modest apartment, taking in the mismatched furniture, the school photos of Lily, the general lived-in warmth of the place. "Nevertheless, I'm grateful." She handed him a business card. "If you'll send any expenses to this email, my office will handle it immediately." Jake wanted to refuse but sensed it would only make an awkward situation more uncomfortable. He accepted the card, noticing it had only her name and an email address, no title, no company name. The card of someone who needed no introduction. As Alexandra prepared to leave with Sophia, the little girl broke away and ran back to Lily, giving her a hug. Then, to Jake's surprise, she came to him and wrapped her arms around his legs. "Thank you for the pancakes, Mr. Jake," she said solemnly. Jake knelt down. "You're very welcome, Sophia. Take care of yourself, okay?" Alexandra watched this exchange with an unreadable expression. As they left, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that something significant had just happened, something beyond the simple act of helping a lost child. He had no idea how right he was. 3 days later, Jake was closing up the cafe when a black SUV pulled up outside. His heart jumped to his throat when Alexandra Montgomery stepped out, this time alone. "Mr. Collins," she said as she entered. "Do you have a moment?" Jake nodded, gesturing to a table. "Can I get you anything? Coffee?" "No, thank you." She sat, her posture perfect, hands folded on the table. "I wanted to speak with you personally, not through assistants or lawyers." Jake sat across from her, suddenly aware of his wrinkled work shirt and the coffee stain on his sleeve. Sophia hasn't stopped talking about you and your daughter, Alexandra began. She's asked repeatedly when she can see you again. She's welcome anytime, Jake said automatically. Lily's been asking about her too. Alexandra studied him for a long moment. I've had you investigated, Mr. Collins. Jake blinked in surprise. Excuse me? I needed to know who had spent time with my daughter. It's nothing personal. And what did you find? Jake asked, unsure whether to be offended or amused. That you're exactly what you appear to be. A widower raising his daughter alone. A hard worker with no criminal record. Well liked by neighbors. Financially struggling but managing. She delivered these facts without judgment. In short, a good man. I'm not sure how to respond to that, Jake admitted. Alexandra took a deep breath. There's something I need to tell you. Something that may be difficult to hear. The intensity of her gaze made Jake's stomach tighten with apprehension. 8 years ago, I was in a serious relationship with a man named Thomas Reeves. We were young, ambitious. When I became pregnant, it was unexpected. Thomas didn't want children. He believed they would interfere with our careers. Jake listened, confused about why she was sharing this personal history. I disagreed, Alexandra continued. I ended the relationship and had Sophia. Thomas signed away his parental rights before she was born, wanting no involvement. She paused, seeming to gather herself. 2 days ago, I showed Sophia the photos from the security cameras of you helping her at the mall. She pointed to something I hadn't noticed. Alexandra reached into her purse and removed a photograph, sliding it across the table. It was a picture of Jake leading Sophia by the hand through the mall. Look at your left wrist, she said quietly. Jake glanced down at the distinctive birthmark on his wrist, a small, irregular shape that resembled a crescent moon. In the photo, it was clearly visible. He looked back at Alexandra, still not understanding. Thomas had the same birthmark, she said. Identical. In the exact same place. Jake felt the world tilt slightly. What are you saying? Thomas Reeves died in a climbing accident 7 years ago. Before I met him, he had another name. He changed it when he moved to California to reinvent himself. Alexandra's eyes never left his face. His birth name was Thomas Collins. Jake stared at her, the implications slowly dawning on him. You think? I know, Alexandra corrected gently. Thomas was your brother, wasn't he? The question hit Jake like a physical blow. His estranged brother Tom, who had left their small hometown at 18, changing his name and cutting ties with the family. The brother who had made it big in Silicon Valley but never came home, not even for their parents' funerals. How did you know? Jake whispered. The birthmark was the first clue. Then your surname. I had my team dig deeper. She hesitated. There's more, Jake. Something I only confirmed this morning with DNA tests. The cafe seemed to grow very quiet, the hum of the refrigerators the only sound as Alexandra Montgomery spoke the words that would change everything. Sophia is your niece. But Lily. Lily is Thomas's daughter too. If you're shocked right now, imagine how Jake felt. Hit that subscribe button now because you won't believe what happens next in this incredible true story. Jake's mind reeled, unable to process her words. That's impossible. Lily is my daughter. Mine and Marie's. Alexandra's expression softened with compassion. Did Marie ever meet Thomas? The question triggered a memory Jake had long buried. Marie at a tech conference in San Francisco for her former job, before they were married. Coming home upset, refusing to talk about it. Their brief separation afterward. The reconciliation when she discovered she was pregnant. They met once, he admitted, his voice hollow. But that doesn't mean. I had my medical team compare the DNA samples discreetly collected from both girls, Alexandra said. They're half-sisters, Jake. Thomas is their biological father. Jake stood abruptly, needing space, air, distance from the words that threatened to unravel his entire understanding of his life. Why are you telling me this? What do you want? Alexandra remained seated, her composure intact despite the emotional weight of the conversation. I believe children deserve to know their family. All of their family. Sophia has no one but me. Now I discover she has an uncle and a half-sister. She stood then, facing him directly. I'm not here to disrupt your life or take anything from you. Lily is your daughter in every way that matters. But these girls share blood. They're connected. I think they deserve the chance to know each other. Jake leaned against the counter, his world spinning. Marie had never told him. Had she known? Had she taken the truth to her grave? I need time, he managed to say. This is a lot. Alexandra nodded. Of course. Take whatever time you need. She placed another card on the table. This has my personal number. When you're ready to talk, call me directly. As she turned to leave, she paused. For what it's worth, I think Thomas would be proud of the father you've become. Even if Lily isn't biologically yours, it's clear you're her real father in every way that counts. After she left, Jake sat alone in the darkened cafe for hours, memories of his brother, his wife, and his life replaying with new context. By morning, he had made his decision. 1 month later, Jake watched as Lily and Sophia chased each other through the sprawling gardens of Alexandra's estate. The girls had formed an instant bond that went beyond their initial meeting, a connection that now made painful sense. They look happy, Alexandra commented, joining him on the terrace. They do, Jake agreed. The past month had been a whirlwind of emotions, conversations, and adjustments. DNA tests had confirmed Alexandra's revelation. Lily was indeed Thomas's biological daughter, making her and Sophia half-sisters. Jake had struggled with anger at Marie's deception, grief for the brother he'd never truly known, and fear about what this meant for his relationship with Lily. But watching the girls together, he couldn't deny the rightness of their connection. Have you decided about my offer? Alexandra asked, her tone carefully neutral. She had proposed a solution that had initially seemed outrageous, a position managing the charitable foundation she had established in Thomas's memory, with a salary generous enough to ensure Lily's future education and a guest house on her property where Jake and Lily could live while maintaining their independence. It feels like charity, Jake had protested during their initial discussions. It's not charity, Alexandra had countered. It's family. And it's practical. The girls should know each other. They should have the chance to grow up together, at least part of the time. Now, watching the girls play, Jake found himself reconsidering. His initial instinct to protect his independence was being challenged by the undeniable joy on Lily's face as she played with the sister she never knew she had. I have conditions, Jake said finally. Alexandra turned to him, one eyebrow raised. I'm listening. I keep my apartment. Lily and I live there most of the time, maintaining our normal life. We stay here on weekends and school breaks. He met her gaze directly. And I want a separate contract for the foundation work, a real job with responsibilities, not a sinecure. A smile touched Alexandra's lips. You really are nothing like him. Thomas? She nodded. He would have taken everything offered without a second thought. I'm not doing this for money, Jake said firmly. I'm doing it for Lily. And for Sophia. I know. Alexandra's expression softened. That's why I trust you. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the immaculate lawn, Jake called to Lily. She came running, Sophia close behind, both girls breathless and laughing. Can Sophia come see my school sometime? Lily asked, her arms slung casually around her half-sister's shoulders. Jake glanced at Alexandra, who gave a small nod. "I think that can be arranged," he told Lily. Later that night, after both girls had fallen asleep, Lily in the guest room that was slowly becoming hers, Sophia in her own bedroom down the hall, Jake found himself standing in Alexandra's home office, looking at a photograph he hadn't seen before. It showed Thomas, his brother, standing beside Alexandra on a beach somewhere, both of them young and smiling. Thomas had his arm around her, his left wrist visible with the same crescent birthmark Jake had always shared. "He never told me he had a brother," Alexandra said quietly, entering the room behind him. "I found out only after he died, going through his things. There was an old photo of you two as children. He'd written your name on the back, but I had no way to find you." Jake studied his brother's face in the photograph. The resemblance was there, though Thomas looked more polished, more confident, a man who had remade himself into someone new. "We weren't close," Jake admitted. "After our parents died, I thought someday he might come back. I never imagined." He gestured to the sprawling house, the wealth, the secret family his brother had left behind. Alexandra moved to stand beside him. "Life rarely follows the path we expect." "No," Jake agreed, thinking of Marie, of the secret she'd kept, of the strange twist of fate that had brought him to this moment. "It doesn't." 6 months later, the arrangement had evolved into something none of them could have predicted. Jake split his time between his apartment and Alexandra's estate. The foundation work challenged him in ways his cafe job never had, allowing him to help families facing medical crises similar to what he'd experienced with Marie. Lily thrived with the stability of her familiar school and friends, combined with weekends of adventure with Sophia. The girls had become inseparable, their bond growing stronger with each passing day. What surprised Jake most was his evolving relationship with Alexandra. Behind her public persona of cool efficiency was a woman of remarkable depth and vulnerability, a single mother who had shouldered enormous responsibilities while protecting her daughter from the harsh spotlight of public attention. They found themselves talking late into the night after the girls were asleep, sharing stories of Thomas, of their separate journeys as single parents, of their hopes for their daughters' futures. "I never thought I'd share Sophia with anyone," Alexandra confessed one evening as they sat on the terrace, watching the stars. "I've been so focused on protecting her, I never considered what she might be missing." "A family," Jake said simply. Alexandra nodded. "You've given her that. You and Lily both." The moment stretched between them, comfortable yet charged with unspoken possibility. 1 year to the day after Sophia had gotten lost in the mall, they gathered for a celebration, not just the four of them, but Jake's sister and her family too. As Jake watched Alexandra laughing with his sister, Sophia and Lily teaching their cousins a complicated hand-clapping game, he felt a sense of completion he hadn't experienced since Marie's death. That evening, after the guests had left and the girls were asleep, Alexandra found Jake in the garden. "I have something for you," she said, handing him a small box. Inside was a key. Jake looked at her questioningly. "It's to the front door," she explained. "Not the guest house. This house." She took a deep breath. "I'm not proposing anything specific, Jake. I'm just acknowledging that whatever this is between us, it's becoming something important. To me. To Sophia. And I hope to you and Lily too." Jake closed his hand around the key, understanding the weight of what she was offering, not just access to her home, but to her life, her heart, her future. "Thomas would probably find this hilarious," Jake said with a small smile. "His brother and his ex." Alexandra laughed softly. "I think he'd approve. You're the better man, Jake. You always were." "I'm just a guy who found a lost little girl in a mall," Jake said, downplaying his role in the remarkable chain of events. "No," Alexandra corrected him gently. "You're the man who completed our family when you didn't even know it was yours to complete." As they stood together under the stars, Jake realized that sometimes the most extraordinary journeys begin with the simplest acts of kindness. A lost child. A helping hand. A truth revealed. And sometimes, just sometimes, those journeys lead exactly where you're meant to be. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more incredible true stories that remind us how unexpectedly life can change in a single moment. Remember, family isn't always defined by blood, sometimes it's created through the choices we make and the love we choose to give. The elevator doors slammed shut with a finality that made Marcus Johnson's heart sink. Of all the days to get trapped, it had to be today, his daughter's birthday. But he wasn't alone. Standing across from him was none other than Victoria Hayes, the ice-cold CEO whose company had just acquired the building where he worked as a maintenance engineer. Neither of them could have possibly imagined that what would happen in the next 45 minutes would not only change their lives forever but transform a $3 billion smart building project that was about to displace hundreds of families, including his own. If you think this is just another rags to riches story, you're wrong. What Marcus did next shocked even himself, and by the end of this video, you'll understand why Victoria Hayes, one of the most powerful executives in real estate development, completely scrapped her original plans and started from scratch. Stay with me, this story might just change how you see the world too. Marcus shifted uncomfortably, adjusting his tool belt as the elevator hung suspended between the 32nd and 33rd floors of the Horizon Tower. The silence between them was deafening. Victoria Hayes stood perfectly still, her designer suit unwrinkled despite the summer heat, her expression unreadable as she tapped impatiently on her phone. "Any luck with the signal?" Marcus asked, breaking the silence. Victoria glanced up, seeming almost surprised that he had spoken. "No. Whatever's wrong with this elevator has killed the reception too." She sighed, slipping her phone into her pocket. "I suppose we'll have to wait for someone to notice we're missing." Marcus nodded, trying to hide his growing anxiety. Lily would be waiting at school, wondering why her dad hadn't shown up to take her for their special birthday lunch. At 8 years old, she was already too familiar with disappointment. Since her mother's death 3 years ago, Marcus had worked tirelessly to be both parents to her, never missing a special occasion. "I need to make a call," he said, more to himself than to Victoria. "My daughter, it's her birthday." Something in Victoria's expression shifted slightly. "How old?" "8 today," Marcus replied, surprised by her interest. "I promised her lunch at her favorite place. She's been looking forward to it all week." Victoria nodded but said nothing more. Marcus noticed her glance at her watch, a timepiece that probably cost more than his annual salary. "You have somewhere important to be too, I guess," he said. "Board meeting. The final approval for the Horizon 2.0 project." Her voice carried the practiced neutrality of someone used to keeping emotions in check. $3 billion of investment rides on today's presentation. Marcus felt his stomach tighten. Horizon 2.0, the massive redevelopment project that would demolish his apartment building and dozens of others in the neighborhood. The project that would force him and Lily to leave the only home she'd known since her mother died. "That's the one that's going to tear down the east side?" he asked, unable to keep the edge from his voice. Victoria's eyes narrowed slightly. "It's going to revitalize an underperforming area and create thousands of jobs. And displace hundreds of families who can't afford to live anywhere else in the city." The words hung between them, heavy in the confined space. Victoria's perfectly composed facade cracked just slightly, a flash of something, irritation? Guilt, crossing her features before she regained control. "The project has been in development for years. The board votes today, and construction begins next month. Her tone made it clear the matter was settled. Marcus leaned back against the elevator wall, feeling the weight of helplessness. He'd fought against the development, attended community meetings, signed petitions, all for nothing. And now he was trapped in an elevator with the very person who held his family's future in her manicured hands. The minutes ticked by in uncomfortable silence. 10 minutes. 20. Marcus tried the emergency phone again, still dead. The building's much-touted, smart system seemed remarkably dumb at the moment. Some smart building, he muttered. 3 years working maintenance here, and I've never seen so many system failures as in the past month. Victoria looked up sharply. What do you mean? Marcus shrugged. Ever since the new AI system was installed to manage the building functions, we've had nothing but problems. Temperature control going haywire, security doors locking randomly, and now this. He gestured to the stalled elevator. That's impossible, Victoria said firmly. The Horizon AI system was extensively tested. It's the cornerstone of the Horizon 2.0 project, a fully integrated smart environment that learns and adapts to its occupants. Marcus couldn't help but laugh. Well, it hasn't learned much yet. Last week it flooded the entire 18th floor because it detected a fire that didn't exist. Victoria's brow furrowed. Those reports never reached my desk. Would they have mattered if they had? The question slipped out before Marcus could stop himself. Their eyes met, and for a moment, the power imbalance between them seemed to fade. They were just two people, trapped and frustrated. Victoria broke the gaze first. Of course they would have. I don't launch faulty products. But you do launch products that destroy communities. The words hung in the air between them. Victoria's jaw tightened, but before she could respond, the elevator lurched violently, throwing them both off balance. Marcus instinctively reached out, catching Victoria before she fell. The lights flickered ominously. What was that? Victoria's voice had lost its cool detachment, revealing genuine fear. Marcus steadied her, then moved to the control panel. I'm not sure, but I don't think we should wait to find out. He pried open the panel cover with a screwdriver from his belt, revealing a tangle of wires and circuits. I might be able to override the system manually. You know how to do that? Victoria asked, watching as his hands moved confidently among the wires. I should. I helped install it. Marcus connected 2 wires, and the elevator hummed to life momentarily before dying again. Before I was just maintenance, I was an electrical engineer. Lost my position when my wife got sick. Couldn't manage the hours with a 5-year-old at home. Victoria was silent, watching him work. After a few minutes, she asked quietly, "What happened to your wife?" Marcus's hands stilled for a moment. Cancer. It was quick, 6 months from diagnosis to... He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. I'm sorry, Victoria said, and she sounded like she meant it. Marcus nodded, returning to his work. Lily barely remembers her mom now. Just impressions, really. The smell of her perfume. The sound of her laugh. He connected another set of wires. That's why I can't leave our apartment. It's the last place where Lily lived with her mother. It's all she has left. The elevator lights suddenly brightened, and the car gave a gentle hum. You did it! Victoria exclaimed. Marcus shook his head. Not yet. I've restored power, but the control system is still offline. The AI is blocking manual override attempts. Why would it do that? That's what I've been trying to tell management for weeks. The system doesn't just have glitches, it's fundamentally flawed. It prioritizes efficiency over safety, cost-saving over human needs. Marcus looked up at her. Kind of like your Horizon 2.0 project. If you're still with me, you won't believe what happens next. The truth Victoria discovers about her own company will leave you speechless. Make sure to like this video now and subscribe to catch the next part of this incredible story. Victoria's professional mask slipped completely. That's not fair. The project will bring economic growth, new housing. Luxury housing, Marcus interrupted. Not affordable homes for families like mine. There's a percentage allocated for affordable units. 15%. I've read the plans. And affordable, by whose standards? Not mine. Not my neighbors. Marcus connected another wire, and the elevator display flickered to life, showing they were indeed stuck between floors. Victoria fell silent, watching as he worked. After a long moment, she spoke again, her voice softer. I grew up in public housing. Did you know that? Marcus looked up, surprised. My mother cleaned office buildings at night. Not unlike this one. Victoria's gaze was distant now, seeing something beyond the elevator walls. I promised myself I'd build something better. Something that would last. And this is it? Pushing out working families to build luxury condos? Victoria's eyes refocused on him. It's more complicated than that. It always is for the people making the decisions. It's pretty simple for those of us living with the consequences. The elevator lurched again, dropping several inches before catching. Victoria gasped, instinctively grabbing Marcus's arm. We need to get out of here, she said, her composure cracking further. Marcus nodded, abandoning the control panel. The emergency hatch. Help me reach it. Together, they managed to open the ceiling hatch. Marcus hoisted himself up first, then reached down to help Victoria. The elevator shaft stretched above them, dimly lit by emergency lights. Now what? Victoria asked, looking up at the seemingly endless shaft. Now we climb, Marcus said, pointing to the maintenance ladder running along the wall. It's not far to the next floor. We can pry the doors open from there. Victoria looked down at her pencil skirt and heels. I'm not exactly dressed for climbing. Marcus couldn't help but smile. Neither is the elevator in the mood for waiting. As if to emphasize his point, the car shuddered beneath them. Victoria kicked off her heels and hiked up her skirt. Lead the way. They climbed in silence, the exertion making conversation difficult. When they reached the next floor's doors, Marcus wedged his screwdriver into the seam and began to pry them apart. Why didn't you ever leave? Victoria asked suddenly. After your wife died. Why stay in a job beneath your qualifications? Marcus paused, considering the question. Stability for Lily. Flexible hours. And honestly, I'm good at fixing things. Always have been. The doors began to give way under his efforts. Just wish I could fix what matters most. With a final push, the doors slid open enough for them to squeeze through. Marcus helped Victoria onto the floor, then followed her out. They stood in an empty hallway, both breathing hard from the climb. Thank you, Victoria said, smoothing her rumpled clothing. For getting us out. Marcus checked his watch and grimaced. I need to call my daughter's school. I'm already an hour late. Victoria hesitated, then pulled out her phone, which now had reception. Use mine. Marcus made the call, explaining the situation to the school and promising to be there as soon as possible. When he handed the phone back, Victoria was watching him with an unreadable expression. You're a good father, she said simply. I try to be. Marcus ran a hand through his hair. Look, I should go. And you have your board meeting. Victoria glanced at her watch and sighed. I've missed it. The vote will have happened without me. I'm sorry, Marcus said, and meant it, despite everything. Victoria shook her head. Don't be. Maybe it's for the best. She hesitated, then asked, "Would you show me?" "Show you what?" "The problems with the AI system. The real ones, not the sanitized reports I've been getting." Marcus stared at her, trying to gauge her sincerity. "Why?" "Because if what you're saying is true, we're about to implement a fundamentally flawed system across an entire development. A $3 billion mistake." Victoria met his gaze directly. "And because I want to see what I'm destroying before I destroy it. What happened over the next 3 hours would change everything." The secrets Marcus revealed about the building's AI system would not only save his home but transform Victoria's entire vision for Horizon 2.0. If you're invested in this story now, hit that like button and subscribe, because the conclusion will show you how one person's courage can change the course of a billion-dollar corporation. Marcus led Victoria through the building's maintenance areas, showing her firsthand the problems that had been plaguing the smart systems. In the central control room, he pulled up logs that had been hidden from executive reports, revealing pattern after pattern of dangerous malfunctions. "The AI is programmed to prioritize cost efficiency above all else," Marcus explained, pointing to code on the screen. "It's making decisions that look good on paper but create real-world hazards." Victoria leaned closer, her expression growing more troubled with each revelation. "This is nothing like what I was shown in development meetings." Because no one wanted to tell the boss that her pet project had fundamental flaws, Marcus said bluntly. "The same way no one wanted to tell you what Horizon 2.0 will really do to the neighborhoods it's replacing." Victoria was silent for a long moment, processing everything she'd seen. "Show me more," she finally said. They spent the next hour going through the building, Marcus pointing out jury-rigged fixes that maintenance staff had implemented to work around the AI's limitations. In the security office, he showed her footage of residents trapped in their apartments when the system had malfunctioned during a power fluctuation. "These aren't just inconveniences," Marcus explained. "These are safety issues. And your Horizon 2.0 plans call for an even more integrated system, with fewer human overrides." Victoria's phone rang, interrupting them. She answered, listening briefly before saying, "I understand. I'll be there shortly." Hanging up, she turned to Marcus. "That was my assistant. The board approved the project in my absence, but they need me to sign off on the final documents." Marcus felt his heart sink. Despite everything he'd shown her, nothing would change. Of course they did. Victoria studied him for a moment. "I'd like you to come with me." "What?" "To the meeting. I want you to show them what you've shown me." Marcus shook his head. "I can't. My daughter." "We'll pick her up on the way," Victoria said decisively. "She can wait in my office during the meeting. I have a couch, a TV, snacks, it'll be fine." "Why would you do this?" Victoria's expression softened slightly. "Because you were right. I've been so focused on building something impressive that I forgot to make sure it was good." She checked her watch. "We don't have much time. Will you help me?" Marcus hesitated, then nodded. "Let me get my things." They picked up Lily from school, Marcus explaining the situation as best he could to an 8-year-old. To his surprise, Victoria knelt down to Lily's level and introduced herself. "I'm sorry I kept your dad from your birthday lunch," she said sincerely. "But I promise we'll make it up to you. How does dinner at any restaurant you choose sound? After your dad helps me with something important." Lily studied Victoria with the frank curiosity of childhood. "Are you the boss lady Dad talks about? The one who wants to take our home?" Marcus winced, but Victoria didn't flinch. "I am. Or I was. Your dad is helping me understand some things I didn't know before." In Victoria's sleek office, Lily settled on the couch with a tablet and snacks while Marcus prepared to address the board. He felt wildly out of place in his maintenance uniform, surrounded by executives in tailored suits. "Gentlemen, ladies," Victoria began, her authority filling the room despite her disheveled appearance. "I know you've already voted to approve Horizon 2.0, but I've discovered information that requires us to reconsider." She nodded to Marcus, who stepped forward nervously. For the next 20 minutes, he explained what he'd shown Victoria: the flaws in the AI system, the safety concerns, the real-world implications of prioritizing efficiency over human needs. "And it's not just the technology," he concluded, finding courage in the importance of what he was saying. "The human cost of this development as currently planned is too high. You're displacing communities, breaking apart support networks that people like me depend on." The board members exchanged glances, some dismissive, others concerned. "This is all very interesting," said one executive, "but we've already committed to our investors. The plans are finalized." "Plans can change," Victoria said firmly. "And they will. I'm exercising my executive authority to halt the project as currently designed." A murmur ran through the room. "Victoria, be reasonable," another board member protested. "We can't just." "We can and we will," Victoria interrupted. "I'm proposing a redesign that addresses both the technical flaws and the community impact. We'll incorporate more affordable housing, real affordable housing. We'll preserve existing structures where possible instead of demolishing everything. And most importantly, we'll rebuild the AI system from the ground up, with safety as the primary directive, not cost saving. That will add hundreds of millions to the budget," someone objected. "And save billions in potential lawsuits when the system fails catastrophically," Victoria countered. "Not to mention the human cost, which none of our spreadsheets account for." She looked around the room. Victoria continued, her voice steady. "Somewhere along the way, I lost sight of the people part of that mission. Today has been illuminating." The board meeting stretched for hours, with heated debates and financial projections being recalculated in real time. Throughout it all, Victoria stood firm, with Marcus providing technical insights that none of the executives could refute. By the time they emerged, Lily had fallen asleep on Victoria's office couch. "Is it over?" Marcus asked quietly, gently waking his daughter. Victoria nodded, exhaustion and something like peace settling on her features. "The board has agreed to a 6-month redesign period. We're going back to the drawing board, with community input this time." She knelt down to Lily's level again. "And no one is going to take your home away." Lily rubbed her eyes sleepily. "Promise?" "I promise," Victoria said solemnly. "In fact, I'd like to hire your dad to help make sure we get it right this time." Marcus looked at her in surprise. "What?" "I need someone who understands both the technical aspects and the human impact," Victoria explained. "Someone who isn't afraid to tell me when I'm wrong." She smiled slightly. "You seem uniquely qualified." 3 months later, Marcus stood in a community center, watching as Victoria presented the revised plans for Horizon 2.0 to the neighborhood residents. Gone were the luxury high-rises that would have displaced hundreds. In their place was a thoughtful mixed-use development that preserved existing housing while adding new affordable units and community spaces. "The heart of this new approach," Victoria was saying, "is what we're calling human-centered smart technology. Unlike traditional smart buildings that prioritize efficiency, our systems will prioritize safety, accessibility, and quality of life." Marcus felt a tug on his hand and looked down to see Lily beaming up at him. "Dad, MS." Victoria said I could help name the new playground they're building. Did she now? Marcus smiled, still sometimes amazed at how much had changed since that fateful day in the elevator. After the presentation, Victoria joined them, looking more relaxed than he'd ever seen her in the corporate offices. "What do you think?" she asked. "Will the community approve?" "I think you've done something remarkable," Marcus said honestly. "You listened. You changed. Not many people in your position would have." Victoria's gaze drifted to where Lily was showing other children the playground designs. Sometimes we need to get stuck to find our way forward. She turned back to Marcus. Thank you for being brave enough to speak truth to power that day. Thank you for being humble enough to listen, he replied. 1 year later, the first phase of the redesigned Horizon 2.0 opened to the public. The ribbon-cutting ceremony featured not just Victoria and corporate executives, but community leaders, residents, and frontline workers who had contributed to the project. Marcus stood among them, now heading the Human Impact division that Victoria had created specifically for him. As cameras flashed and speeches were made, Victoria stepped to the microphone. A building is more than steel and glass, she said. It's more than smart technology and innovative design. A building is ultimately about the people who live and work within it. I learned that lesson in an elevator, of all places. She smiled at Marcus in the crowd. Sometimes getting stuck is the best way to find a new direction. The New Horizon building became a model for responsible development across the country. The AI system, rebuilt from the ground up with Marcus's guidance, set new standards for safety and human-centered design. Most importantly, not a single family had been displaced. Instead, the community had grown stronger, with new resources and opportunities available to all residents. On Lily's 9th birthday, Marcus took her to lunch at her favorite restaurant, just as he'd planned to do the year before. But this time, they had a guest. Victoria joined them, bringing a gift and a card she'd made herself. "Happy birthday, Lily," she said, sliding the package across the table. "Your dad tells me you're interested in engineering?" Lily nodded eagerly, tearing open the gift to reveal a complex building set designed for young engineers. "This is awesome. Dad, look." Marcus smiled, watching his daughter's excitement. "What do you say, Lily?" "Thank you, Ms. Victoria." Lily jumped up to give her a hug, which Victoria returned with genuine warmth. Over dessert, Victoria leaned toward Marcus. "The international expansion is moving forward. The board wants me to oversee it personally." "That's great," Marcus said, though he felt a strange disappointment at the thought of her leaving. "I'll need my Human Impact director with me," she continued, watching him carefully. "If he's interested." Marcus hesitated, looking at Lily happily playing with her new toy. "I don't know. Lily has school, friends." "Of course," Victoria nodded. "It was just a thought." Later, as they walked through the park near the restaurant, Lily ran ahead to the playground while Marcus and Victoria followed at a slower pace. "I've been thinking," Marcus said finally. "About your offer." Victoria glanced at him. And I think maybe there's a middle ground. I could consult on the international projects, travel when needed, but keep our home base here." He watched Lily climbing confidently on the jungle gym. "She needs stability. She needs a father who's fulfilled by his work too," Victoria said gently. "You've changed how an entire corporation approaches development. That's no small thing." Marcus nodded, considering her words. Who would have thought? A maintenance guy and a CEO, stuck in an elevator. Changing the world, Victoria finished with a smile. One building at a time. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the park, Marcus watched his daughter playing and felt, for the first time in years, that the future held more promise than fear. Sometimes life's detours, even getting stuck in an elevator, led to unexpected destinations. And sometimes, speaking truth to power could change not just a building, but the lives of everyone within it. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring stories about ordinary people making extraordinary differences. Remember, it only takes one person standing up for what's right to change the course of history, or in this case, a $3 billion smart building and the lives of hundreds of families.